which is Blackfoot. So Oki, Idamik Skanatoni. Hello and good morning, everyone. Nadanago Bunigyayo. My Blackfoot name is Elk Bear. I am the National Student Director for Cando, as well as I just completed my third year of Business Management and Indigenous Governance at the University of Lethbridge. And that's actually where I'm also currently residing and working for the summer. So I'm located in Lethbridge, which is in southern Alberta, again, which is in Treaty 7 territory, which is the traditional lands of the Siksikaitsitabi, which is the Blackfoot Confederacy. I just want to welcome our audience today to our second Youth Connect for 2022. Really excited to have you guys join us today, as well as our special guest, Heather Black, who is going to be, as a continuation of the previous Youth Connect, she'll just be, going over some successful interviewing techniques, as well as sharing her experience on preparing for interviews and what to expect in the different kind of different variations of interviews that you might see, maybe that be virtual or in person. And then I just wanted to mention for our audience, anyone in attendance, that there will be a draw for a $100 gift card at the end. You will receive a evaluation form at the end of the session, and if you fill that out and submit it, you'll have your name entered in for the $100 gift card. So that's so don't forget to do that if you want to get your name in, I guess. So I'm just going to start by now I'll introduce Heather Black, our special guest, as I mentioned. So entrepreneur, creative strategist, community champion, skills builder. These are just some of the many hats that Heather Black has worn as an Indigenous professional, committed to building inclusion in the Indigenous community. Heather carries great passion for traditional and contemporary values and is always willing to share cross-cultural knowledge with individuals, teams, and organizations. Heather not only owns one, but two businesses, which are Creative Spirit Solutions, an educational business consultant and facilitator business, as well as Buffalo Stone Woman, which is an Indigenous tour guide company located in the Treaty 7 territory. So yeah, I just wanted to welcome everyone. I also want to start by thanking welcoming our audience and our Cando staff in attendance today. And yeah, I'll just pass it over to our guest now, Heather.
Okay, and thank you for that beautiful introduction, Nathan. I am very honored and blessed to be here today. Oki, Danisdada, Bawestich, Tanse, and hello, everybody. Today is going to be, we're going to be going over the interview. Nistunan Anok Utikitsawaki. So I am too from the Blood Reserve. I reside here in Calgary, well, in both places on the Blood Reserve. I live in the heart of Treaty 7. And absolutely amazing. Today we have my special guest, which is my new employee who actually just went through all of that interview process. I would love for Celine to actually introduce herself.
I'm Celine Waldman. I'm from Stony Nakota, and I work with Heather with Creative Spirit Solutions and Buffalo Stone Woman. And I've recently went through some interview I recently went through an interview with Heather, and yeah, I'm here to talk about how the interview goes and all the things you need to know. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're sharing the best of both worlds, our Blackfoot world and our Stony, and we're really sharing a lot of experiences out in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. So I will just share my screen now. We have an awesome presentation here. Which is, let's see, all about perfecting your interview skills. So one of the things that when we're doing interviews, it is the most nervous thing to do, to be able to start working with our interviews and doing all kinds of stuff. It's nerve-wracking. How do we dress? How do we go into these interviews? and everything. So let's go into the traditional one-on-one interview. So depending on the type of interview, the questions would be a combination of general questions. What the interview will be looking like is they want to gauge your technical skills. So what kind of programming skills do you have? Do you have any social media management, project management skills? They'll also look at your skills behavior, so your time management, your communication. Are you good at working alone or with a team? And some decision making. So really those hard to, those very, how do you think through challenging processes, all of those different stuff. Behavioral characteristics. So they pretty well collaborate with others. Develop leadership abilities. And how does that look for you? Contribute to a positive culture. So now I would welcome Celine to talk more in detail about the traditional one-on-one interview.
So the general questions focus on your behavior, characteristics, problem-solving abilities, and how they deal with being in charge, and your ability to work in a team as well as independently. So the interviewer would like to know what the candidate has achieved in previous employment. Also, for preparation for one-on-one interviews is very important. Before the interview, the candidate should look over the job description and anticipate questions and start formulating answers to those questions. So, and then collaborate with others. These skills can help professionals collaborate with other team members and achieve common goals. Contribute to a positive culture. These skills can help employees communicate with others and build strong relationships, which contribute to a positive culture in the workplace. And that's for the one-on-one.
Super awesome. Thank you, Celine. Panel interviews. So I have done numerous panel interviews in my lifetime. I've worked in many different skill levels, from working in different industries such as the financial industry, oil and gas, education, business, and even dabbling in my early years, I wanted to be a police officer. So these panel interviews are really where you're going to be doing an interview to maybe up from 2 to about 4 to 5 different personnel within that organization. So the purpose of the panel interview is so they allow the interviewers to determine if candidates are suitable for the position. And how do we actually prepare for that? So a good way to handle a panel of interviews is to take each panel member and their question in one at a time. So, just looking at that question, really analyzing it. The time for a panel interview is typically around 40 minutes long, but can go anywhere up to an hour. And, and I think that is what you really want to prepare for and do all of that. So Celine, you have any panel interview tips and stuff that you want to go over?
Yeah, so for preparation for a panel interview, it will be a little more intense as there are more interviewers with different functions and different perspectives. Usually the panel has a mixture of closely connected specialists who may have different roles in the interview. A good way to handle a panel interview is to take each panel member and their questions one at a time. And then when addressing individuals in a panel interview, maintain eye contact with each person with special attention to the individual who asks the question. And yeah.
Super sweet, thank you. So the presentation interview, this is where a lot of the traditional one, the traditional interview is what has been traditionally out there. One-on-one allows for business owners like myself to have and really gauge one-on-one with an individual, where we pull out key skills that we're looking for any kind of a job presentation and interview. So what is the employer actually looking for? So I'm a small business owner. And so what I'm looking for is a candidate that's going to be able to stand out, that's going to have multiple skills. They want an employee to know their job and someone who will fit into their company culture. So myself, I had this position that I just posted about a month and a half ago. It was all about the combination of two businesses. So being able to multitask, being able to look at multitasking, about, what kind of skill set would they bring in. Key skills are something like your communication style, whether you have good verbal skills and good written skills, your ability to engage in your audience, with your audience. So not only myself, but learning to be able to have good presentation skills, but being able to adapt to a higher level of networking, and, and being able to, even with Zoom, like, and being able to handle the computer technology and all of that stuff. Organizational skills are key to help any organization out, as well as some good listening skills. So good problem solving skills, teamwork skills, and all of that. What you want to do is you want to prove that you can do this job. So understand the job, what their duties are, demonstrate the skills, do your research, and match your skills to the job requirements description. So in the job, in the actual job application, looking at those key skills and really picking out those skills that are going to stand out for you. And you want to be confident in your job interview. So I really push for having a portfolio, just of your successes and different stuff that you have. Portfolio will be you'll be equipped with your resume and covering letters so that they're on hand, as well as any art projects that you have, any design projects, anything that you've excelled in school, or in, your employment history. Thank you letters, doing all of this is something that is really key to bring to an interview. So that way, if they say, well, here is proof, like, this is what I've done, this is how I've worked in the community and did different things. So tips to consider. So Celine?
Yes, just give me a second. So for preparation tips, for a presentation interview, ask whether the presentation has a topic or if it's a blind interview. Ensure you know how long your presentation should be. So research, do your research on the company, like checking its recent social media posts and websites, make notes. The best preparation is knowing plenty of information about the company. It is a good idea to put together some general notes so that you can review. And it's first impression. So introducing yourself in an interview can help you make a good first impression. Dressing appropriately during an interview can help you show your professionalism. When choosing an outfit, try to dress like yourself while maintaining your professionalism. And yeah.
Awesome. So thank you very much. Continuation of the tips. So what employers are looking for is, can you do the job? Employers want to know if you have the ability to do something successfully. Will you be motivated to do the job? So I think that is where, when you learn the job and you kind of say, well, okay, well, I've learned the ropes and I'm kind of like, I'm not interested or anything like that. So they're looking at your, what you're able to bring to the table. So they want to know if you have the motivation and the drive to continue to keep doing that job consistent and well. So will you fit into the organization? So employers want to know that you have similar values, and that you'll fit into the culture, and in the end work well with all the fellow employees. So for myself, it was key for me when I put the job posting out, was somebody that was very adaptable to a forever changing environment. So, 2.5 days we're in class, we're teaching. So how were they going to be able to pull out their leadership style? How were they going to be able to utilize technology to help the participants in the class? The organizational skills were also really key. For the hiking business, it was like who wanted and was physically capable to be able to go out and to do guided tours along with myself. So somebody that wasn't going to be scared of the outdoors, somebody that loved the outdoors as much as I did, somebody that really connected, and wanted to learn. So they didn't have to know everything about the outdoors, but they needed to know and have a really good, passion to be outdoors and to be able to learn and do all of that. When an employer like myself, when I looked at it, I was thinking, okay, well, I really need a lot of help. And how would this youthful individual be able to help me with my organization, with time management, with administration and booking and classroom management? So really looking at all of these key skills that they're able to help with. So here are some most common questions that are in an interview. So a lot of them would be, what was your responsibilities in your last job? Was there any challenges or problems that you had faced? If so, how did you handle those situations? What was the reason for leaving your current employment or past employment? What would you say your greatest weakness is? And what is your greatest strength? So the greatest weakness goes into a behavioral thing. So what was the greatest weakness? And then actually your strength is how were you able to overcome those weaknesses with the strengths that you have? Do you work well under pressure and stress? Do you prefer to work independently, or do you work well on a team? And what about this position? How does it interest you, and what is your long-term goals? What can you contribute to this company? And what are your goals for the next 5 to 10 years? And what are your career goals? So here are some really awesome common questions for an interview. And before we kind of go on, what I wanted to do was actually share an actual, let me just go here. Let's go here. And we'll open up and we'll show you exactly what we meant to, let's go here. What that personal one-on-one and what employers are actually doing today. So this is, when we look at this was a presentation that I had asked Celine to actually do. I wanted to see if she had PowerPoint skills. I wanted to see her life. I wanted to see the skill set that she came through and everything. And she came up with this amazing 5-page PowerPoint presentation. So Celine, I will just let you read this.
Okay, so introduction. Hello, my name is Celine Wildman. I am from Morley, Alberta, Treaty 7 territory. I lived in Morley my whole life and grew up learning the traditional ways and culture from my mom and grandma. I am always open to learn more about my Indigenous culture and to share with others. My grandma is my inspiration to be proud of who I am and where I come from. I love my reservation and I do my best to support our people. And then the second slide. So how am I connected to our Indigenous ways? I smudge every morning and pray before each meal to give thanks to our Creator. Every summer, me and my mom participate in Sundance ceremony. We also volunteer to bring traditional meals and to serve the elders. I think it is really important to take care of our elders because they keep our traditions and language alive. I enjoy going to powwows or round dance celebration. I love seeing family and being surrounded by my own people. It brings comfort and healing. I join youth programs or I work within the community. I volunteer with the horse riding program for the youth. I love to learn about my culture and just to hear elders speak our Nakota language. And then the next slide is just some pictures that I took. Just pictures that I'm really proud of, and about more about my reserve and how close we are to the mountains. And it's just a really good, I don't know, it's just a blessing to live so close to the Rockies, and it's just a big inspiration. And yeah, I like to ride horses. I recently just graduated high school. I like to go on adventures. I like to drive places. And there's my mom like cutting dry meat. So she really teaches me a lot. And then the next slide. So my favorite hobby. Growing up, I loved to play sports or to just be outside playing and riding my bike. I love to play baseball, volleyball, and hockey, also riding my horses in the summer. Being active makes me happy, and I love to be in nature to acknowledge how beautiful my home is. I also enjoy taking nature pictures on my phone. And then the next slide is just me being active. So I played hockey in Siksika. I play baseball with Morley. I have a little ranch in Morley, and I love to go hiking. And that was me up on Yamnuska. And then the next slide. My greatest accomplishment is graduating high school and then getting my driver's license. I always doubted myself, and I never thought I was capable to achieve my high school diploma. So it took a long time for me, I feel like, because of COVID and everything moving to online. It was really hard for me to keep up with classes and just to be there on Zoom. It was really, I wasn't motivated at all. And so I had to do an extra year for my grade 12, but eventually I finished. And yeah, I'm really proud of that. And then the last slide, my favorite quote, be the energy you want to attract.
Oh, that is really amazing. And thank you so much, Celine, for opening up and to really sharing our way that we actually that we did, and we facilitated the interview. So here's our contact information. My email as well. I'm on Instagram and under Creative Spirit Solutions or Buffalo Stone Women, and Celine is also out there. So pay attention to us and see where our little footsteps go all over the Canadian Rockies. What I would love to do is to open up the floors to questions and comments to any of the interview processes or anything that we have covered.
Feel free to also, if your mic isn't working or you don't feel comfortable using the mic, feel free to put your questions in the chat as well, and we can just read them that way, or Heather or Celine can answer them that way. Yeah, we have a question from Leah. You can just unmute yourself.
Cool. So I guess, Heather, I'm very curious to know, just because the PowerPoint is a very interesting, I guess, component to having the interview. And so is that something that's more of a personal choice, or is that more the way that you see interviews actually turning into these days, just because the world of work is changing so much? And
I do. So You know, when I looked at that, prior to me going 100% into the entrepreneurship world, I worked for Junior Achievement Alberta, Junior Achievement of Southern Alberta. And what we were doing was we were in community and at teaching grade 8 level for their first job. As we were doing interview process, and this is mainstream, like, you know, downtown Calgary, corporate Calgary, they weren't doing the traditional one-on-one. So they were getting people and interested employees that were coming on board to do these 5-point presentations, 5-page presentations. I've seen it now numerous times where they're able to share and you're able to see the skills and you're able to really emphasize and pull out what is their goals, what is their aspirations. So it's really good that it's on paper, but to see is a different, it gives the employer a whole different lens and everything.
That's very cool. Especially in creative roles, you know, when it's not just a behind the desk paperwork sort of job. I'm just currently working on a leadership curriculum for urban Indigenous youth, and one component was filling out applications and doing interviews, and just what key things to consider for young people when they're preparing for things like this, and just what the future of work is going to look like. So I think I had never heard of that before, so that's really neat.
It's really cool. So things are really evolving. And so, Lynn, maybe you wanted to provide some feedback of what was your experience of developing that? How did you feel about developing that PowerPoint and then presenting it in a panel? I mean, with your interview.
So it was really new to me because I've always had like you know, one-on-one, you know, just the typical interview, but this was different, and just to show and express myself through, you know, online, like making a project and a PowerPoint, it was cool. Like I liked it, and I was super nervous because I wasn't sure if I, you know, did it right, but I just really expressed about myself and whatever questions you asked me through the email, and it ended up being really good and great. Yeah, I liked it.
I know we have a question from the chat just about if we were going to cover online interviews. I can just start by providing I guess some comments or feedback on my experience with online interviews. So in the last well, since COVID started, so in 2020 there, I've experienced quite a few, well, actually all of my interviews have been virtual through Zoom or another online platform, maybe Teams or Google Meet. And I would just honestly say that a lot of the advice that Heather and Celine have provided would be transferable over to the virtual interview experience. You know, just other than additional advice I guess I could give would be, you know, when you're sitting in a virtual experience like this, it might be common nature or might be natural for you to actually look at the video of the person in the eyes. But what I found it's good to do is actually look at the camera lens, because then it's kind of like mimicking, I guess, eye contact. So that's one thing I've done, and I feel like it's helped me out in my interview experience. And then another process that I've came across is a speed dating type of format. So I know that a lot of Indigenous organizations, or just organizations in general, have job symposiums or job fairs where they maybe get you interviewing with, say, you know, a number of employers throughout the day or throughout maybe a couple days. So that's another experience that I went through. So what it was like, what I mean by speed dating is that, you know, you have a certain amount of time, usually I think it was 20 to 30 minutes, to sit down with an interviewee or with an interviewer, and you're the interviewee. And basically the advantages of that format is just that you get to speak and meet with so many different employers throughout a short time period. And then I guess the advice for that would just be, again, kind of just mimicking what Heather and Celine have already said. Is just like, be prepared, be confident. I know that us as Indigenous peoples, a lot of the time, we're taught to be humble, and that's one of the values we hold close is, humbleness. But I would say try to get into a good habit of, when you're in the professional world, or the professional world, trying to gain job experience, to just really try to get into the habit of, giving yourself recognition for your achievements, because at the end of the day, you've worked very hard for those, and you are deserving and earning of that recognition. So don't sell yourself short, I would say. And I mean, even for myself, it's something I had to get around, because it's not natural for me to, brag or boast about my accomplishments. But in this type of a setting, I would recommend to do so. So I just wanted to give a couple comments and feedback that I had experienced. I'm not sure if Heather.
Yeah, and it's really great. But I find that when you're on Zoom, the best thing is that you're not in front of the actual panel. So I find it more comfortable to be able to speak and to just be yourself. So did you find that experience as well, Nathan?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Heather that it's actually an advantage, meaning like that you're not actually physically in person, and it's a bit less intimidating. So I completely agree. And you have the advantage of, maybe having some notes there with you prepared that you can read off of. Whereas, sure, you could do that in a physical interview, a personal one-on-one interview. But I just feel, you have some advantages of having the screen there. And, say if you get asked a question that you don't know, maybe if you could quickly look it up, say, like I've done that myself, I'll just be honest. So I feel like, yes, there's definitely some advantages and benefits to having a virtual interview, whereas in person, you're kind of there, and it's whatever you have prepared, it's what you have to give. You don't have that benefit of being able to maybe look at notes or whatever it is, right?
Yes. And as well, sticky notes. So sticky notes are the key. So one of the main things is look at those behavioral questions and write down, what is my weakness? So if you write down what is your weakness, and then you could put it on the screen, then you can offset and say, okay, well, what is my strength? And then you could put that on the screen. So you're still maintaining eye contact with the Zoom camera, but you have everything there. So they're not, you're going to not be fumbling around with papers or trying to figure out what you're going to be saying, because it's all there. And if you do the PowerPoint presentation, that really, alleviates a lot of the stress as well. And, this is really key. I really enjoy this. This is my trick to presentations, and to be really going in and doing all of that. So Janine, would you want to do an impromptu interview? Would you be interested, and we could put you on the spot?
That's okay too. Don't worry.
I kind of have a sore throat today, so I'm just like, I have my lozenge in and everything, but yeah, I kind of have a cold right now.
Okay, awesome. So Leah, do you do a lot of interviews as well?
No, not yet. Right now, it's I'm just trying to work on a curriculum and find some research, and then I'll be holding an event. But just as far as indigenizing job interviews or job postings, I'm very curious to know those things. And I had worked in government before, and there was a big thing around recruitment, and it was like, how do you make the postings more, or even the application process more Indigenous? And I always wanted to kind of know the question to that, just for not only myself, but in the future. And my partner does a lot of interviews, and so I can hear, not that I'm eavesdropping, but I can hear those interviews and just what people, the problems people run into when they do these online interviews. So
Online interviews,
secondary.
I think
yes.
Danielle has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Just a question and a comment too. Wondering if you've seen from the last couple of years, I know for ourselves at Cando, I think we was just via telephone if not, because we didn't really do Zoom until I think this past couple of years. So that's new for us. And so I imagine it's the same for others too, that it was either in person or on the phone. So this whole remote or via Zoom is something new within the last couple of years for us. So just a comment, and then a question, I guess, for youth that are coming from school, like I was straight out of post-secondary and maybe with little experience to go off of for those experiments or questions based on your experience and background and all that kind of information. Would you have any tips for them to go off of for those kind of questions, like the example ones and all those kind of questions that you outlined?
When we're doing the actual PowerPoint, oh, let me just pull that slide back up. Some of the questions that when we're, I'll quickly share the screen. When you're dealing with the questions, they're pretty well the same. So even like when we're doing that 5-page or 6-page PowerPoint presentation, we're still able to gauge questions as they come. So I was still able to gauge the typical questions of, do you work well under pressure? I was, because I juggle two different businesses, I was looking at organizational skills, computer skills. Social media is huge. So being able to manage social media. So I wanted to be able to look at that and be able to say, well, how do you use social media today and everything like that? When we're doing everything on because everybody has transitioned to Zoom, it makes it so much easier and accessible from everybody that, if you have this job position, you could have people, like if the job position is in Edmonton, you can have people in Calgary actually do the interview and then make plans to transition to a different city or anything like that. And, one of the main things is really being comfortable and learning to be comfortable behind the Zoom camera. I tend to just look at my PowerPoint and the presentation. So I don't even look at myself and try and do all of that. I use a lot of hand gestures. That is kind of like my nervous twitch, but I also am able to grab, something that I'm able to have on my hands and be able to fiddle with that without anybody seeing how nervous I am and all of that. So, everything, all of these questions and everything are going to be the same ones that are going to be asked in any of the interviews. A lot of the behavioral questions, that is where that has been the traditional, star questions of being able to, how do you handle situations? How are you taskful? How are you able to handle high stressful situations? Your weakness, have you had trouble with previous employees and what was your outcome? So these were really, they don't differ away from our traditional role of interviews, but you're able to, make sure that you have these written down. One of the greatest tricks is to really do your homework, to really look at that job description and pull out all of those key skills that you have and write them down, put them on a sticky note and, be able to really emphasize what those are. If you wanted to put them on a sticky note, you can kind of, have them all over your screen, or if you want to be able to look people, in the open screen, you're able to do that. So skills development, practice makes perfect. And if it doesn't matter if you're young or you're old, you're still going to have that nervous factor because you want to be able to really rehearse. You want to really be able to practice. And my first point of thing is to make a printout of that job application and write down, and then look at their website. Look at their social media website. And if you see, and one of the challenges is using social media. That is how our youth and our community communicate today. So, how active are they as an organization on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok? It's how they are, delivering their programs and services. And from that, just by looking at their social media, you're able to gauge, okay, well, maybe they don't post the way they're supposed to do. Social media strategy is, you have to at least have one post a day to really engage your audience. Are they engaging their audience? Are they bringing sales into their product or into their organization? If they need a lot of community members engaged in a program that they're delivering, are they able to reach that? Then you're able to say, you know what, I'm a team go-getter. I'm able to develop strategies that calls out to the audience and really engages them and with interesting posts and social media, posts, pictures, and buzzwords, and using today's trending technology. So we're not going to say laugh out loud in an interview, but we're going to be able to say engage and really know what that trending language is today. So it's really, really awesome to be able to carry on and look at these new ways of interviews today, but also we're still able to deliver the traditional one-on-one or panel interview, even with Zoom and through presentation.
I have actually just a quick comment to answer or feedback comment to Danielle's question. Just for like advice for students maybe who don't have those experiences and who don't know how to answer those questions, like what's your job experience, those kind of things. I would just recommend, well, first off, be prepared and know the questions that are going to be answered, as Heather said, but also just, try to relate it to your personal life. If you don't have that job experience, relate it to, your personal life, or even just be honest and, outline your attributes, your qualities, and just tell them, I do not have this, say, job experience, but I'm more than willing to learn. That's why I'm here. And I would love to, that kind of a thing. And then just to answer your earlier question, Leah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. In terms of like indigenizing the interviewing process, I would say that, first off, I would say to just ensure that the actual employer and the interviewer are like Indigenous awareness training. Maybe make sure that they're have taken some kind of Indigenous awareness training, so they are aware of, those aspects, I guess, rather than putting, so I guess that would be a start I would recommend. But yeah. And then do you have another question there, Leah? Or Leah, sorry.
Yeah, I go by both also.
Okay.
I have two questions actually, and the first one is, so I like to make people laugh, and so when I've been in an interview, it's I really, when somebody asks, I think I've said this before, so what's your greatest weakness? And I just said coffee cake, just to kind of throw off the person and, then pull it back and say, oh, well, no. And then that gave me, more of a chance to go into that. But just, sometimes, and some people may not think that that's appropriate, and it may not be in certain situations, but you know, when you're trying to gauge, I think the employer or the person, is that extremely faux pas, you know, to do that, or I don't know.
Like for me, our people, our Indigenous people are all about having and sharing that laughter. It's about and I believe that's where the culture of our people are. And so it would be relevant in that case, but then when we're going into a more place, like say if we're going downtown to Royal Bank, or whether we're going to you know, Shaw Communications or something, and I think they get a little bit more stern, well, not stern, but I think they're just on task and they want to be able to just have, you know, the interview. And it's not to say that they're not humorous, but I think it's more straight. I don't know what the proper word would be. Nathan, are you able to help with that?
I think, yeah, I think what you're getting at is like that, to ensure, like, it depends on the situation, I guess, and depends on the employer. And then I guess just to add to that, I would say that it is important, or one thing that you mentioned is that, yes, you may answer or reply with, say, a humorous comment, but then you follow it up with a more serious answer. So I would say that depending on the situation, obviously, but that would be an okay, in my mind, say if you were interviewing with an Indigenous company or what have you. But I agree with Heather completely. What she said about the, you know, making sure that you're aware of what type of interview it is and what type of employer, those kinds of things.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, of course.
I know for sure my interview with Heather, there was a lot of laughter and a lot of smiles. So it really does depend on like the employer and Indigenous, if they're Indigenous or not. But also too, laughter does bring, you know, good energy and you know, just to have a good vibe around. But yeah.
And you've had different work experience before, Celine. How did that interview process go for you?
Well, it was kind of different because through my reserve, we had a summer work employment. So all we had to do was sign up at the HRD and they would assign us work placements. So they said they were going to interview us, but they never really did. We just got the job. So they just mainly told us what to do and that was it. So it was different for my reserve. But my first interview with Heather was definitely a good experience for me. And yeah.
Which has been amazing. So she's my first employee and I'm her first official boss. So it's like the stars aligned and everything is going absolutely amazing. So yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Heather and Celine, and for our audience, from our guests, Leah. Does anybody else from the audience have maybe one more question? And then I'll just say a few closing comments and
we have some questions in the chat bar. I'll get more information about doing interviews. I have not yet want to do one. You know, I mean, I think the best thing that you can do is you have our email. Danielle and Elsie would be able to forward our email. So if you ever want to practice and everything, so Lynn and I are available to be able to offer that, you know, that interview. Like maybe we can go through a mock interview. Send me your job description and then we can kind of queue up some questions for you. And this is amazing because it's going to be, you know, real life action put into action. So yeah, feel free to reach out to our emails. and we'd be able to help you with that interview as well.
So yeah, we'll just take one more question from Janine.
Okay, I just what Elsie had put in the chat, I was interested about knowing that too. Like, you know, at the end of your interview, they ask the company or the people interviewing to ask, do you have any questions for us? So like, what would be some good questions to ask them in return? Like say, is it okay to ask about the salary, the wage, you know, like how much am I expecting, you know, the wage is going to be and stuff like that? Because I'm like a budgeter, so I need to know, like, I'm going to make some good money or kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. So that is a very important question to ask. And I wouldn't walk away from an interview without asking that question. How much is a salary? What me as an employer and what I've heard before is that they can put out the salary range of what that position is going to be. You typically, when is the start date? How soon would I hear back from your organization? You know, about when the start date and if I'm successful candidate. Am I able to contact you to get some feedback on my interview? You know, those are really key questions to ask. Celine, do you have any questions or anything that you
Yeah, so maybe one of the questions you could ask is like, what does it take to be successful here? So you can get an idea of like, you know, how you can be successful and a good employee in their eyes, and just so you can stand out and stuff. And just, you know, like what about my resume caught your attention for this position? You know, just I kind of Googled it, but yeah.
and use Google, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, no, those are some great questions to ask, and I completely agree that yeah, I don't have much to add because you guys covered any questions I would have added. Did you still have one more question there, Leah, or was that in response to the previous?
It was just, I guess, about the negotiation of a salary. You know, you're like, this is the range, what would you expect? And then you're like, oh, $2,000 more than what I'm offered, you know, and then what? So anyways, no. Also, Celine, I love that comment, you know, what about me stood out to you? And it's just like, tell me
Yeah.
what you like me.
Yeah.
We'll go. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much to our audience for their amazing questions, and again, of course, to our special guest Heather. And I apologize, Celine, for not introducing you at the beginning there. My apologies.
It's fine.
But I
fine.
wanted to thank you so much for your contributions today. For you know, you really made this session valuable, I feel, to our audience and our Youth Connect members. And as Heather mentioned, if anybody from the audience today has further questions or they would like further support, then, you know, feel free to reach out to any one of us here on the panel or any of the Cando members, staff members, I mean, and they'll be able to connect you with one of us. And as well, don't forget to fill out the evaluation to get your name in for the $100 gift card. And then, yeah, I guess I just wanted to add one more piece of advice is just, you know, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for those supports, because there's so many supports out there for, you know, resume building, as Heather mentioned, mock interviews, you know, because the best way to learn something is actually practicing it and getting hands-on experience and, you know, really feeling your way out through the process. So just don't be, you know, hesitant to reach out for those supports, because they are out there. And if you would ever need help finding those supports, again, just reach out to Cando and we'd be more than happy to provide those to you. And yeah, I just want to finish by saying thank you once again to our special guests, all of our audience, and our Cando members as well. And thank you so much. I hope everyone here has a great day.
Awesome. Thank you. Remember to be you, be real, and smile.